rise, please. Ms. Michael,
The minutes will go on the website after they're approved at the board meeting. Whoever asked for them last time will be emailed copies of them. But they don't go until they're approved.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Jerry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dr. Walsh?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Medical staff report, pardon me, medical staff report.
So we have appointments, reappointments of 2 teleradiologists, James Rose and William Zinn. There's applications in order and no policies.
So could we have a motion, please, to approve the appointments and reappointments that are listed here on the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, Ken?
Aye.
Dr. Walsh?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Judge, the financial report.
Very good. Swap.
Okay, we're heading to tab D. D is in boy. Okay, tonight we're talking about the month of July 2018. It's the first month of our new fiscal year, first month of my budget. It's been an adventure, trying to get everything in and everything analyzed, but we got there in the midst of our external audit. So for the month of July 2018, the healthcare district had a net loss of approximately $74,000 compared to a budgeted income of $28,000 for a negative variance of approximately $102,000. This was due to a couple of things. One was negative variance in adjustments to revenue and a negative variance in operating expenses, those of which were somewhat offset by a positive variance in gross patient revenue. Our gross patient revenue did exceed the budget amount. There were also small negative variances for other operating and other non-operating revenue. Gross patient revenue for the month ended at $2.77 million compared to a budget amount of $2.69 million, for a positive variance of approximately $77,000. Net patient revenue as a percent of gross was at 50.1% compared to a budget of 51.9%. The higher amount is better. Which is a negative variance, was due to a variance in bad debt expense. The variance in bad debt expense, the negative variance, was due to increases in the aging of the outstanding patient responsibility balances. Patient responsibility balances can be uninsured or what we call underinsured. Someone that has no secondary, and after their primary insurance pays, they become responsible for whatever balance remains. And the way that we currently do the analysis of the reserve is that we look at everyone that's in what we call the private pay bucket, or the private pay category, and then also we assume that there's going to be a portion of certain third-party payers, commercial insurance, Medicare, not Medi-Cal, not workers' comp, where there's going to be some patient responsibility there. So we do an estimate of that. And that's why I use the term both current and estimated. Utilization, we had 57 acute inpatient days. That was versus a budget of 40. And we had 9 swing bed days versus a budget of 20. As you recall, during the budget discussion and approval, that swing bed days were one of the things that we did increase in revenue. And this was based upon the underutilization of the service, and also that we were in the process of obtaining an occupational therapist, which we have successfully done. The two together resulted in an average daily census of 2.13 patients per day. Skilled nursing unit was 100% occupied again, that's 16 residents. Outpatient volumes experienced varying levels of increase in all areas except lab. Lake Almondra clinics were up significantly over the prior month, but still below budget, slightly below budget, due to an increase in the number of providers and the available provider days we had in the month of July. Total operating expenses for the month were approximately $1.5 million versus a budget of $1.43, for a negative variance of approximately $70,000 for the month. As I mentioned, that month and also as the year to date. Salaries and wages were just slightly under budget by $8,000, mainly due to some staffing shortages in acute and ED nursing. FTEs for the month were 105.08 versus a budget of 106.8. Contract labor, which is kind of with us is the inverse of salaries and wages, was over budget by $22,000 this month. Again, it was to cover some staffing shortage in the nursing areas of acute and emergency departments. Profees Medical, this is a real focus of the month and probably our discussion. Profee Medical, I didn't put what it was. Profee Medical, that's probably why. Profee Medicals had a negative variance of approximately $38,000. This was a combination of the medical professional fees or providers, doctors and nurse practitioners in both the emergency department and in our clinic. Now in the emergency department, clinics first. So in the clinic, we had the Dr. Suarez, which I'm calling it now, and I show in the statistics that this Dr. Suarez office, because when we do comparative review of it, it's going to be his patients that we're looking at on a historical basis up until April of this past year. And then now it's essentially the open office. In the month of July, we had 2 locums nurse practitioners in there, and we had to pay locums rates, which is quite high. Turns a nurse practitioner essentially into the compensation or the cost of a physician. So we had the 2 physicians in there, which pushed us well over budget. And then I think I may have under budgeted the specialty providers a little bit. So we'll probably see that reoccurring, but the real impact on expenses in July was having those 2 nurse practitioners in there at the locums rate. The other piece kind of surrounds the locums concept is that we had locums providers in the emergency department for 19 days of the month. We have to pay them at a higher rate, and we also have to pay basically Dr. Walls or Dr. Well, not Ann, but or Dr. Ware to serve backup call, which is both a financial cost and $400.
Yeah, that's breaking the bank.
No, times 20 days though. I'm just saying that's $8,000 a month. So basically, if you do it for a whole year, it's $100,000. But I think what's more significant is the fact that they're already working a lot, especially Dr. Ware right now working a full schedule, and to have them on backup call would be something we prefer to not have. We prefer to have providers in the emergency department that have admitting privileges. So that was part of what happened there, and it drove our average hourly cost from a budget of $135 to a budget or to an actual of $154 an hour for a negative variance of about $14,000. So questions or discussions or comment or discussion? discussion or comment?
Let's take it, we'll start down. I think, go ahead, Jerry, go.
Well, my actual first question was back on the skilled nursing.
Uh-huh.
So I was just looking at the income statement, and for that it shows that we have a negative variance there of almost 91,000, but it said we had a 100% occupancy. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to understand.
For better or worse, we put the swing that revenue in there.
Oh.
And it's something we could move into acute, we could move into inpatient, but that's described.
Do you have something?
Well, I guess I don't like it being in the skilled nursing budget. I think it should be elsewhere.
Move. That's either inpatient or skilled.
Because it can't be its own.
Did you say can it be its own line?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And these are the inherited financial statements I took over, so please feel free to, if there's something that you see that I'm not going to make changes until I hear something differently, or I say, it's not representing properly what we're
Why
trying to do.
don't you buy that there, since it's having a separate line item for the statement?
I don't know that we need a consensus on that.
Well, someone might disagree with me.
Well, does anybody disagree with Rich?
I don't.
I'm going to save my remarks till the end, so, Dr. Walls, give me comments on that. Yeah.
So Dana, while we're talking about the positions, I do want the board to know that Dr. Scott and we are in conversation about her becoming our own physician, independent practitioner or an employee physician. Dr. Adams the same way, and Dr. Holloway talked to us yesterday about becoming our own physician. So we've been out there trying to recruit and retain these local docs to become ours. Dr. Scott is very interested in maybe her picking up a clinical practice where she can be employed and get health insurance. So we're trying to work through some of those challenges, but we've got the three right now who want to become our own. So we're aware of the fact that these locals are costing us money, but we're trying to do something about it. Dr. McGrory, who is our own independent physician practitioner, he took a 2-month vacation, 3-month vacation. He's at Cabo, I don't know where he went, but he took a break. So that's one of our docs who were picking up quite a few of those ER shifts that also would cover us. So our clinic docs didn't have to be back up. He took a break. So that's showing in some of these finances.
And have you a timeline for the decision on the local docs or
I actually do. With Dr. Scott, probably within the next month I'll know for sure. Dr. Adams wants to try us out. He wants to, he's coming to work as a locum, and then seeing if he likes us, and if he does, he'll stay. And Dr. Holloway and that is just purely a matter of money, and using money or not. And then Kat, did Zanga talk today about maybe being our own too? Okay, so, here, I knew someone talked.
Potentially in January, we should consider
being ours.
maybe.
So we've been working on getting the doctors to come here, and they're working with us, and we like them, anyway, to become our own.
Dr. Adams starts September 13th and he has like 6 shifts, so that'll give each one of them, sides a chance to see how they do together. So probably within 30 days.
And then, of course, we still have to go to the medical staff to make sure that it's not something that, yes, we want to hear without approval from the medical staff, so.
So does the board see value into, now we're talking about the income statement and what lines we have on here for we have salaried and contract labor split. Would it make sense to do something similar for physician professional fees? For locums versus our staff? So we can track that better?
Maybe what I can do is like a supplemental supplemental analysis of that, where I can give you that information, because from like an accounting perspective, they're the same group, so,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering how you work.
but I could just say that of that 37, this amount of difference comes from this, and that's played out. I've been trying to make the narrative work in this first phase, so it's a little constraining, but play around with it.
Let it try it out and see what happens.
That's good.
Okay, are there any questions? Because there's something I would like to get agendized for the next meeting. We've had discussions, and we need to have more discussions about the use of grants. I know that you see that this is a deficit budget right now. However, if you look at retained earnings, or better yet, the unrestricted money is at 5.7 million, and the restricted is a little over 1 million. So, and a lot of that, of course, is coming from grants, and I just would like to get into a discussion, just so that we just say, and here, I have a problem with, we worry about grants, and I understand why we worry about grants, and will they be dependable, and yet we don't worry about Medicare and Medi-Cal, and that's in the hands of, Medicare is in the hands of the federal government, or the grants. So, that could change too. It can all change. But we don't want to do without the grant money. So it's just something that we really should devote some time to. So I'd like to agendize that for the next meeting.
Just so Dana, to clarify, when you're saying grants, are you talking about IGT monies and the prime grant monies?
Yes.
Okay.
So are we talking about discussing each program, what it is, how much money we get, or what exactly is our focus?
Well, I'd like to see, yes, how much it is, and decide. We know that we could exist for 5 years with the money we have. So we would have time to make some other moves. And surely, there'll be chances to do that if it happens. So, I just would like the board to get on board and talk about what they want to do.
So can we talk about how much money is coming in for each grant and how much we are spending to fulfill that grant?
Well, of course, we get back about twice what we put in.
Depending on which one we're talking about, but yeah, I think that would be a useful conversation.
Yes. Well, I intend for, I would like very much, if you have ideas about what you'd like to have discussed under that item, if you would send them either to me or send them to Linda, and we'll agendize it for next month. Are there any other comments before you want to talk on impact of board? Let's have a vote to accept the financial report. Have a motion? Is there a second? All in favor, Jerry? Rich? Dr. Wall? Ken? Okay. Steve, the impact of the board to approve salary increases on fiscal year 17-18 budget. I think that's something that you asked for, Mary Linda.
Yeah, I think we already kind of covered that when we talked about the expenses and stuff.
We looked at it, I'm good if you guys are good, and the fact that it's last year,
Yeah.
and we're moving forward, and I think we have a really good basis to analyze any variances on labor in the current year.
Okay.
Well, I think at the last finance committee meeting, I brought up the raises in long-term care, whether or not
I learned what ROI stands for.
So briefly, if I could quantify what Dr. Wall just said in numbers, is that we did make an investment in our LVNs and CNAs, which there's no better investment. And what has become of that is we haven't eliminated registry, but we have added some staff, and we have retained staff, and we decreased the registry. Just as a point of reference, the total labor cost in fiscal 2018 for long-term care, which is a combination of just the wage of employed staff and the registry. The total for the year was $1,338,000. And for the first half of that, fiscal year, we were just under $700,000. So we were running on like a 1.4 pace, and then we cut it down to 640 for the last 6 months, which brought us down to the $1,338,000. Going into fiscal 19, we budgeted a total labor cost of annual labor cost of $1.2 million. And if you take July and annualize it, basically July times 12, which is probably not fair because it's 31 days, it's at $1.230 million. So however you want to look at that, we brought down our cost of providing the necessary labor for long-term care, and that doesn't include some of the adjustments we've made to bring our staffing ratios up. We may take another hit here if we lose our waiver on the RN, which is almost a certainty. And so from what we call contribution margin, which is net patient revenue less direct expenses, this is what pays the bills of departments like mine and the other non-revenue generating departments. The contribution margin estimated for the month of July, this isn't in any of your information, sorry, was just under $98,000 versus a budget of just under $93,000. On an annual basis, our budgeted contribution margin for long-term care is right about $1,094,000. And so you can see how crucial and how significant of a, going back to the discussion about human versus financial costs, being able to provide such a necessary and meaningful service and have it support the greater mission of the hospital.
Do you have any thoughts on potential to further reduce these divisions?
Absolutely. And maybe Linda can talk about the C9 program. We could have Roseanne come up if we want to get into weeds, but it's a great thing we're going to do.
Well, actually, I'm going to let Casey talk about it because she needs to take, well, Casey and Roseanne both, you guys need to take credit for it. Take credit what credit is due about the CNA program that the district is putting together. So, go ahead.
So the program has all been submitted to the state. We're hoping it can take 30 to 90 days to get it back. We're hoping for sooner than later. And we think our first class, as soon as the project will start, we're going to have 15 students. Roseanne and I sat down, made a mock schedule. As it stands, we can have the class done with 60 theory hours and 100 clinical hours in 26 days. So just over 5 weeks, that allows for their makeup times if they miss that kind of stuff, study days, all their test days. We're hoping to be able to retain some of them for our own. We met with Gino Kissler at the high school today to work with not only being able to get into their, it used to be their RLP program, their CTE program, get under that, get some of their high schoolers just saying that when they graduate, the only options are holiday market or restaurant. So we're hoping to get some of those kids in as soon as they graduate. We can hire them. Roseanne was saying we could make a special class just for the high school students that would go out a little longer.
They have a whole semester. They can do their last semester of this year. They have accomplished in their time frame. So
So that's that piece of the Grow Your Own program that we're really working hard on. Casey, can you talk a little bit about the high school adult program?
The school district, Plymouth Unified School District has an adult work group, and they too will put adults through the program. They can sponsor them to allow people who are so, just gotten their GEDs and stuff, get them back into the workforce. So she said she'd be back with us after she looked at it. We sent her over our handbooks, that kind of stuff, so she could look at it, see what they would need to help us, and hopefully we can get that going. As soon as the state comes back, we'll get our first program started, start advertising it, and hopefully get it started further.
We have a number, described to how many we need to move to immigrant disputes.
How many to eliminate?
We need 4 right now,
Or,
full-time.
And we do have some people that have definitely showed interest in their contacting on a regular basis to see if there were anything to their definitely interested in on the program. And they would be local and we would pay here.
thank you.
Great work.
Don, what?
And my apologies to Casey about her role in that, because that was one of the barriers where we came, because when we first started talking about this during the budget cycle, Roseanne said, well, I can teach the class, but you're going to have to go find an RN to be the director of nurses while I'm teaching. So it's like yin and yang or whatever. And so Casey was able to step in, and we didn't miss a beat. So that was it.
Okay, so moving on, we won't go again to accept the already had, but contrary to last month, capital budget. Before we get into the capital budget, we talked about this at the finance meeting. I don't know if Dr. Walsh has any comments, but I just want you to know that this is not complete. It needs to have funded depreciation, and it needs to be other years need to be filled in for 5 years. What was it? So I will see that become.
No, that's the main thing I want very much.
Steve, you want to talk about?
Right. So in addition to what Dana discussed, or I should say that we agree, this is our latest version. It's really a work in process. We have some holes and things that we're targeting to potentially do this year where we don't have costs. So there is some more work to do, and once we identify all of these projects, prioritizing them, if you will, is going to be another step in this, and determining what we can do with internal staff versus what we have to send out, and then the challenges of getting contractors to do this type of work in the Chester area, and on and on and on. But what we wanted to do was at least get this started so that we can, if anything, create a placeholder here. And I think what's come out of this is that the departments are starting to look a little closer at their areas. Because I had to, after this went to you guys, and it changed multiple times during the week even. And then right after we sent this out, the respiratory therapist says we got to replace our ventilator machine.
That happened yesterday.
So we have to look at replacing it. So that wasn't, that's not on here. It's these types of things. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about ROIs and things like that as we make capital investments, and that's absolutely a non-arguable discussion. But we are still in what we call repair and replace for this facility. With the exception of adding the emergency department electronic health record. And then when we start getting into the chemistry analyzer and the hematology analyzer, which again, according to our lab manager, we've already gone beyond its end of life. And so there's really not a decision here. I think the decision will be what type of machine do we get and what test can it do, or what bells and whistles does it have, and do we get the return on that investment. So right now, it really is just an accumulation of what we know, and then trying to, as Dana also mentioned, starting to designate money for these purposes. And so, with what's before you, the board here in the materials are two sections. And the first section, the longest of the two, is what I would consider to be paid with unrestricted funds. Because right now, we either have unrestricted or we have board designated funds. As of July, we have just under $4.7 million in our unrestricted cash and cash equivalents, and we have just under $1,072,000 in what we're calling board designated at this time. The unrestricted cash we have right now, the $4.7 million, equates to about 95 days cash on hand. We've set a target to have 90 days of unrestricted cash on hand. We have an average of right now we're running about $48,000 of expenses per day. So you can kind of do the math there. That is, as we take, just as a rough number, if we took $500,000 out, we're going to recruit and put it into funded depreciation or designated for capital improvements, that we would be right around 85 days at this point. So that's what we're looking at here. And this section here, the amount to be paid under unrestricted funds, has a couple sections to it itself. The first one has two line items, the network upgrade and the IT servers. Those were approved by you guys already, specific presentations. Matter of fact, we got our IT servers this week. So those are already in process, so that's great. This next section that has individual numbering with it, 1 through 11 on the summary page, corresponds to a really nice detailed narrative that was completed by Linda McCurdy about some of the things that, from her perspective, mainly infrastructure, repair and replace, that needs to be done. And we've gone through here, and right now we have costs assigned to most everything. Two of the areas, the number 6, number 7, hospital flooring, medical records in the clinic building. What we're going to do there is we have to come up with identifying all the hospital flooring we need to replace, and then in the medical records clinic building, we're looking at doing just putting up some drywall, some whatever the stuff is that helps with the insulation. Finish it out a little bit, make it climate control for the medical records, and prepare it for repurposing in the next phase. The medical records refurbishment is their current work area, and the hospital parking lot entails doing something about the horrendous bumps other than painting them yellow. Most likely what happens around this area is that somebody will shave them down. So that we're going to have to get a proposal on that one.
No, we did, but unfortunately, when it went out to bid, they didn't do prevailing wage, and you have to have prevailing wage bids, so we had to send them back out again, because the people who bid the parking lot did not bid it as prevailing wage.
One of the things I've seen was repairing the entire parking lot, which would be multiple $100,000, doing the whole thing as opposed to shaving them down and paving them. So those there, that 1 through 11 there, those are pretty much all high priorities of what we want to accomplish. The road resurfacing, Linda's talking to the individual who previously gave us a quote on that. And the surgery lights, we're already working with a vendor on that as far as identifying the lights that we want to do. And if we can use lights that meet certain criteria, we can avoid having to engage OSHPD and architects and both time and financial overhead.
The you've identified these as priority areas, and I'm wondering within this, the numbers you've listed here don't reflect the priority, 1 to 11.
It's just the way that, no, it doesn't. It's just the way that it was put together by Linda. And now, the Brentwood house, absolutely, we need to have that done before winter.
So that kind of goes to my question, what is the means to prioritize things? Is it what's like they give out first, or is it the ones that are going to have the most potential for outcomes and impact care? How do you...
It's a combination of both. It's what's going to give out first is wet incapacitation care. So, for example, when we found out that the vent was down, that pops up to number 1 priority. That's a patient care issue, so it's a no-brainer on that one. The surgery lights, that's the next one. That's another one that we have to get done. It's a patient safety issue, so then that pops up to number 2. Some of these we identified as they're lower on the list until all of a sudden their end of life, something happens that we expected their end of life to be this date, but then it's not, it's now sooner. And unfortunately, as Stephen said, a lot of the things on this list, the end of life was 10 years ago, and we've been band-aiding them through. So we've been getting the department managers because they're the ones who have the best knowledge of when their equipment, how much longer do they actually have to. So they've been more participative in this list than they had in the past.
So you also have to factor in that we have to have, we're getting an estimate about whether it's more reasonable to repair what we have or build new. And so why put a lot of money in something that is going to get torn down? And boy, that's some kind of guessing game.
Well, and that's also part of how we'll be prioritizing this. Is it something such as there's a part on the floor in one of the hallways that we need to replace now. It's a patient safety issue. So we're not going to wait for that assessment of, are we staying in the new hospital? Oh, we're repairing that right now. There's a lot of things in the old building that there's going to be no choice. It's a patient safety issue that we have to do now, whether we stay or go. So when you talk about prioritizing these things, how we put this list was those 11 things are the top 11. They're going to move back and forth because this is a very fluid document as issues and challenges happen.
Sure. A couple of questions. Linda, what is the amount of capital that you propose to spend in 2019?
Right now, what we're asking for is it's approximately $60,000.
No.
At the bottom of your 2019 line, it's almost 500.
Yes, you did. Or 600. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
600.
Okay. So you're saying approximately 600,000 you plan to spend, and almost all of it is repair, maintenance items?
It would be that top list there.
Yeah. But I thought I heard Steve say that essentially that's what we're doing. We're going to spend all our capital money on repairing items, maintenance items, the things that need to be done. That means that we're not spending any money on veteran services or bringing new services. Is that right?
As far as new services, the only thing that's been brought to us as far as a capital investment right now is Dr. Walls had requested to help me, Dr. Walls, the add-on to the ultrasound machine that can do certain tests.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that, right.
And that even falls, that's interesting, that one falls in the lower capital limit, so, but right now, the things we're investing in, Rich, like I said, is a new x-ray table, a portable x-ray machine, those types of things. That's clearly a repair replacement, but it's, if we don't
Well,
have
does
it.
it have to be? I mean, is there technology that can improve the services we're providing?
Well, and that's part of the new x-ray table. All that goes with that new x-ray table and the new x-ray equipment. One of the things that are on this list that increased our services was the ultrasound. We had ultrasound in this little team group, and then we moved it out to the CAT scan group. Now we're bringing it over to the clinic side. We repaired, we refurbished that room so that it's a more, if I had to come have my ultrasound, I would want it there in that room versus that little team room.
But these are the kinds of things I'm thinking of, not just to think bigger.
Right.
That if we're going to have to replace things and we can afford to do it, why not look to better our services?
Right, and thank you for asking that, because that's what we're doing.
No, and we will take, I'll take everything on here that involves medical equipment or patient services, I'll take it back to the department and ask them, did I scare you? Are you going on the cheap? Is there something we can do that?
And then
we can
you'll
make the
provide an
investment?
ROI.
You got it.
And then the other piece is that during the medical staff meetings under the finance side is to make sure that we make a concerted attempt to ask the physician, is there any services that you see that we need? What do you want, what are we providing that you need? And that's something that we're going to be better at asking the physicians instead of waiting for the physicians to come to us and tell us we're going to go to them.
Now, on the surgery lights,
Yes.
I thought we were going to look for a grant.
Well, we're still looking towards that, but what Steve was talking about was there was an issue on the surgery lights that the first set of surgery lights we were looking for, they were like the Mac Daddy, Rolls Royce surgery lights that would involve OSHPOT. But if we can stick with lights that are a certain weight and they only move off of what we have, a certain amount of inches each, we don't have to do OSHPOT. So we went back to the surgery manager and we went back to Dr. Jensen and said, let's find something that will fit within these requirements that work, so we don't have to do OSHPOT and we can get those lights in place. Then we'll know the cost, and then we can go out to get what we need for grants or auxiliary or the column. So that's what we're doing.
I think many of these, if not almost all of them, could fall into a college grant application very easily.
Good. Okay, my last comment is that we need to repair, replace, and maintain, but I want to see you start thinking of capital investments that can improve the services.
So that'll, I don't think we're ready to approve what we have, that we'll agendize that to look at it again.
Can I ask one question?
Oh, sure, wait. Linda, Jerry's got a question for
Okay,
you.
not a problem.
Yeah, I was just looking at this, and it looks like through 2021, we're expecting over $500,000 in computer and EHR expenses. Can we talk about that for a minute?
The computer peripherals is probably a high number. That one's going to come down somewhat as we shave it down. We just got a first pass from the group. And there may even be some redundancies in there.
Is that to replace aging desks like laptops?
Yeah, because when we installed CPSI in 2013, we put in all new computers. And basically the lifespan of those are 5 years. So yeah, everybody uses a desktop.
Is there a
Go for it, Jacob.
So he came to me a couple weeks ago, asked me to go through an inventory and assess everything that we have. The same as our EHR servers, everything we have is going to end of life eventually. There's no getting around this. We have slowly been replacing and upgrading. So some of the departments won't need nothing for the next 3 to 5 years. There are some departments that by June of 2019, the Windows 7 programs and some of the stuff that they're using are no longer going to be supported. And where we come into the biggest crunch is that if we are using technology that is not supported by the manufacturers, we are no longer HIPAA compliant. And that puts us all at risk. So a lot of what you're seeing there is we can do over the next 12 to 18 months. But the hard stop for that $200,000 that I brought to him, January 14th, 2020. if it's all changed out and upgraded and rerun, then we risk not being within the guidelines of HIPAA, which will put us at a severe risk. So a lot of it is older desktops, a lot of it is Windows 7 operating systems.
Can't be a big cost to upgrade to Windows 7.
The machines themselves also are no longer supported. The warranties have expired. In order to, it's about $300 per machine to upgrade to a Windows 10, but we have no more support on the actual hardware. So if the hardware is to fail, we put $300 into a broke down
So,
machine.
and this is an expense from Microsoft?
Say again?
The upgrade, is this something that Microsoft would charge you, or is this a third-party charge? Because Microsoft does give grants.
Yeah, we didn't, the idea is to change the equipment and the operating system together.
Right.
So if we can work with Microsoft, I mean, I have no problem finding creative ways to do this. But like I said, I got this about 2 weeks ago and was asked to
Okay.
just give a basic overall of what needs to happen by department and a basic timeline of this. As far as where the money is going to come from, I'm open to any ideas that's out there.
Okay, Linda?
So my question to this board is this the format you want for a capital improvement capital budget? So that we can continue to move forward with getting the information you want on the one-page document with the summary that supports it.
Well, I don't think you can get it always, maybe always not get it on a one-page document. I think, I like the format as long as it's got the fund, how you're gonna fund the depreciation, the repair, and the other months filled in. Knowing, of course, that no entity ever doesn't have to go, oh, well, we can't do that this year, we'll move it over here. You know, this is a movable field.
Yeah, I think back to Ken's earlier comment, though, it would be helpful if it was ordered in a priority so that the board can tell, you know, what we really need to do first, second, third. I think that would make decisions a lot easier.
Oh, okay, with those suggestions, is this format work for everybody?
I think I heard Jerry right, I just want to, I'm wondering if, understanding it's subject to change at a moment's notice, if the 1 through 11 could be the most recent reflection of top priorities, and what you guess the priorities are, and then, understanding how it looks like.
Because this is a very fluid document. I mean, as we said, we found out about the bank, that she had assured us a month ago that she had said we were 2 years on.
One more question about the EHR. We're assessing adding an emergency department electronic health record. We don't have one right now. We use the acute through CPSI. And we're looking at CPSI, we're looking at a standalone vendor called T-Systems. T-Systems is the higher price, but has the better track record. But this will be absolutely an ROI. And again, it'll not just be a financial ROI, it'll be a clinical ROI. Does it make life easier for providers, nursing staff, and everyone? Does it provide better care? Does it help reduce medical errors or medication, whatever the patient safety issue is, and we'll determine if that's the appropriate investment.
Who's requesting this?
Who's requesting this?
Yes.
Aaron?
Well, I mean, it's something that we have to go to in the future. But this, CPSI is trying to push their ER module on us, which I'm not very confident that it would work, because a lot of the things that they said would work hasn't worked for us in our position.
Have you talked to other CPSI hospitals that are
We
using
have,
it?
and we're in the process of doing that right now. This is what's going to take some time, so Steve talked about this, not something we can make a decision in a month or two. We're looking at, we're actually going to go next week and go down south and look at one hospital that has all the T-Systems, and we have already looked at some of the CPSI stuff. But we're going to continue doing this for about the next 6 months to see, you
you know, how things work out and how things interface.
I know there are times when departmental systems are the best way to go, but in most cases, if you can stay with one integrated system, you're much better off.
Yeah, we understand that, and that's why we're taking our time before we make these decisions.
I think the CPSI PR module was insanely expensive for what it offered.
Okay.
Because I took the time to look at that.
Now, did it work, or was the only problem the cost, or was it deficient?
Configuration was constant.
And you know, for any of us nurses, that I wanted to work with these systems myself, and it's such an easy way to do things, and it helps capture charges really, really well. So we're trying to find out right now, does it interface really well with the CPSI that's existing? And we're not going to make a decision until we find out that it does interface without an enormous added cost.
What benefit would you see from moving from the system we use now to,
Well, right now, we're just creating documents that kind of did a workaround to make it work out. So we're using a med-surg system. So this T system will help capture charges. We've already had somebody come into the facility and look at like a month's worth of charts to see how much money we might save on a monthly basis. Stephen, do you want to give us a number that we just threw out in the computer? What we might recoup, or we might not save it?
It pays for itself, but, you know, that's, like I've said to these guys, I think that's not the only critical factor here. The critical factor here are the providers frustrated with CPSI, and do they want something better for themselves and for the patients? That's almost a bigger question, because if you go with T-System to pay for itself, I have no idea what CPSI system will do.
Well, we need to know that.
Well, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer
We're
to
taking
get
time,
that.
Rich, we're not gonna, just rush into this, we're taking some time to look at both systems, look at them.
Yes, again, from my experience, and I have a lot of it, departmental systems are good decisions sometimes, but you really want to avoid them if you can. If CPSI has something in the works that, I can't imagine with the 600 hospitals that they have, most of them have emergency departments that they don't have something. Now, the
127 of them use T-Systems.
well,
And I would say,
and they probably will buy them, I would imagine, because they're buying all these companies.
I can say for myself, I went to a seminar in Destin for CPSI, and I heard numerous people that had had the ER module through CPSI say it hasn't worked well for 5 years. So this has been 4 years ago, so I'm sure they've improved in the 4 years, and that's what we're looking into to make sure that, we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, we will look at it. It's a big investment.
Yes, and for my fellow board members, this is the reason we need to do an ROI, which is not just financial. It's clinical, how it affects the physicians and patients.
Does everybody here know what ROI is? Okay. I believe it's return on investment.
Okay, the last thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Rizzo.
Go ahead.
Brent, we do look at from the clinical for the patient service side, as well as the user's experience side and their speed and their accuracy of charting. And we do look at it from a financial perspective, and evident is unable to provide a return on estimate. So we will factor them into as far as the clinical experience for the patient and the user ability, but from the financial side, they're going to fall short numbers when we do a lineup side by side. But we will have that prepared for you with the three vendors.
So that'll be agendized the next meeting.
When it's ready. When it's ready, I'm
Yeah,
not
it is
prepared
gonna
to
take
do
some
that.
Okay, when ready, okay. Does anyone on the board have a problem with, just say, consensus on this form for capital, budget?
I think it gets started. It's
Hold
a
on.
nice rough draft.
Good about that. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, one thing that one ask we do have the board, and it's not a decision, but we need to put this on maybe the next agenda, is we need to come to some clarity about what the board's belief or understanding is about the use of the board designated funds. What can we use them for?
Okay. All right, so be it. All right.
That's it, thank you.
And thank you very much, all of you, for your contributions. Storage of live stream videos. We're going to try to decide how long to keep the videos and where they'll be stored. Any advice on how long they'll keep them? Do they have to be in a cold room or?
No. From the information I've gathered is that they need to be publicly available for up to 30 days or until your next scheduled meeting. So with this one, they'll be up within 24 hours of the end of the meeting. There'll be a link on our webpage, on our Facebook page, anywhere else that we can provide the public with access to be able to watch that video until the next one comes up. There's no real guidelines of how long we store that video or real guidelines to say if Jane Doe Public wants to come in and look at the video from 6 months ago or a year ago, how does the board want that to be presented? Do we want them to fill out an application? Do we need to create a policy about this? And as far as storage goes, I've got hundreds of thousands of terabytes of space available.
So this is not on a disk or something?
No. This goes on once after the 30 days is over. Actually, as soon as the board meeting is over tomorrow morning, I will download it or upload it to a web, and then the hard copy of it will get saved on a storage server.
Is it possible to make a distinction between the two, to keep a hard copy for a longer period of time
Yes.
than what's available
Yes.
online for folks?
Correct.
So you could restore it if you had to.
Yes, I can. The entire video will be stored for as long as the board sees fit. It will be publicly accessible until your next board meeting goes up. And the problem with that is if we start getting multiple videos uploaded to our Facebook page and to our web pages, there's the possibility of those crashing and then the public access isn't there.
Have we looked into a YouTube channel for Seneca?
We have one. And that's what we'll
where they're
upload
being
this
stored?
to.
Okay, so is there any
We'll
reason?
upload it to that, but the link to that storage, once that 30 days is over, that will come down and it will be stored on a server, and then the next one will be put up.
So we can't keep them all available on the channel so that people can watch them? I don't understand why we're saying they have to disappear.
That's entirely in your court right now. If you want them to be,
Why would you want them longer than that?
if you want them,
If they're available on storage.
yeah.
Except
So the idea, I guess, from my perspective, would be,
Well, since the county has now had a couple of years' experience with live streaming and storage of videos, the thing that we're doing that I have found to be very, very valuable is they're literally on the website forever, and they're archived. So that, just like today, somebody asked me about something that happened at a meeting in last May, and I could say, go on the website, look for that day, there's the meeting. I mean, you can literally sit there and watch the whole meeting if you're crazy enough to want to. Or you can go directly to, because they're tied to the agenda, you can go directly to that agenda item and click on it and literally listen to the whole discussion on just that item that you're interested in, without having to sit through the whole meeting. So, in a way, it's cover your backside for the board, because if someone questions how you voted or what you said, they only have to go listen to what you said and watch you say it. You know, the other thing that's really good is it's just for people that can't come to the meeting. Yeah, it may be 2 months later that somebody says something to them at the grocery store or the post office, and now they're like, what the heck's going on? And they can literally go back to that meeting and look at it. So it takes special software
How long do you keep?
indefinitely,
Definitely.
and we back them up on the cloud.
No, what you're talking about is having a link on the website to the video on the server. Yeah, there's no chance for that to can fail, obviously. not like as if you have the video, if they were sure taking and replacing one.
So-
The discussion
Does the board
is
agree
open
that
for whichever,
for now,
however we'd like to do this. I mean,
I think a really good option
Yeah.
would be, we have our minute archive, we have our board meeting page, we run the live one, people can stream, they can click, so we're not gonna store an actual video. You're gonna click on the link, it's gonna go to our channel. What we can do is put a link below, so we have a live link that's gonna take us to the current video from the last 30 days, and then we have a link on the bottom that's gonna take us to the citizen channel on YouTube where they can look through the videos rather than storing a ton of different links to slow down and not know. Just link right back to the channel so everyone can scroll through.
so really, it's already been, we're already in the process. We know what we're doing and we know how long we're keeping them and it's all set up.
Keeping them is on, the board's choice of how long you want to keep them indefinitely on our channel.
Wonder if we could,
That's up to you guys.
I'll get you
on the
a
next
minute.
agenda, and in that process, you give us a range of options explaining the positive and negative of each option. I think that'd be a little clearer for me.
okay.
So that goes, okay, Shirley, go ahead.
Would you have like a room at the hospital or the clinic where I could go and look at this if I wanted to? Because I don't have a computer. So
Yes, we
you
would.
have,
We can absolutely
facility.
accommodate that without,
Yeah, so you would have a place that
Yes.
people that don't have a computer.
absolutely.
Okay, so storage of videos will go to the next month's meeting.
And I'll get you,
The library,
You'll have
those
some-
options.
Yes. Okay, number 10, position recruitment agreement, promissory note. Linda?
Okay, so that's under tab number B. So I was asked to give the clean version and the version with the updates. You have them there, with what was talked about last month. And that would be on the sign-on bonus. And this is for independent contract, this isn't the employee model.
Can I pause for, is anybody else cold? Is it getting cold in here? Okay. Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
That's okay. So I made the changes from what was requested of me last month and brought it back to present.
Are there any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions on there.
Okay,
It's a little louder here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking down. So,
Can you speak up?
I will try.
Thanks.
So my first question, under section 102A,
okay.
so we say the guaranteed compensation is $260,000. And then we have sign-on bonus later on. And then under H, we have aggregate incentive cap. And my question is whether that should include the sign-on bonus, because unless I'm reading this wrong, it says the cap of what they would be paid total under the section is $260, which wouldn't count the sign-on bonus or the living expenses.
So I can add that. No problem.
Well, I guess my question is whether our attorney has taken a look at this.
Pardon me?
Has our attorney taken a look at the
Yes.
language?
Yes.
And he was okay with it saying
Yes, he was.
Any question? And then I also have a question about, because in that 102A, it also says,
I'm sorry, what number?
102A, it says 3.5 to 4 full days of 8 to 10 hours per week. And I'm guessing what we're trying to get at there is trying not to lock somebody into a specific schedule. But if this were my contract, I would say, okay, well, I can get $260 for doing 3.5 days of 8 hours per week. And I don't think that's what you're meaning to say. And it doesn't match what is in the CEO authority page either, which I think says 40 hours a week.
Okay, well, let me start out with, when you look at it, it also states that you have to have an average daily census of 15. So if said provided physician wanted to only do a certain amount of time each day, you still have to get that average in.
I understand, but I think there's a lot of room for misunderstanding with the way it's worded.
So how would you like it to set it? Because I'm trying to make it so as an independent physician, we're not walking them into letting them work their practices the way they want to do
And
their
I
practice.
understand that. I understand that.
And so I'm just not sure how to put that either.
I think that would make sense, or do a weekly census instead of an average daily census. I think there's too many variables in that section.
Can you quantify what an average daily census is?
Well, it says,
What we're
it says
saying
15
is
a day, right?
an average daily census of 15.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is that 15 a day, they work 3 days, they'll have to see 45 people a week? Or does that mean 15 days times 5, let's see 75 people a week, however they will do it, they can see 75? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just think
Yeah.
it needs some more clarity.
Or does it say over a month period, they have to see 20 days times 15, 300 days? I think we have to modify that now. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, it sounds like this
So if
is,
we change this to with an average daily census of 15 patients per day over a 3-month period average?
is this something that you would like to take a little more time to look at? I mean, is this something,
This is something we need to get put into place as soon as
some
possible, so I can get the doctor.
okay, all right.
Well, Dr. Walls, what would you suggest putting there?
Well, I was just wondering, there's no stipulation here about commitment to emergency room or anything like that, right?
No,
Right.
That's all that that's on top of this.
Right.
So any income from the emergency room would be in addition to the $260,000.
Correct. And that would be the same contract that we have, that was approved for our existing clinic.
So if you're asking me my opinion is there should be designated number of hours committed to the clinic. And that should involve a designated number of patients per hour worked.
So how would you think it would make sense to word it in that section?
Well, I don't know, you're just getting my opinion.
Well, should it be 40 hours a week?
No, because if the doctors are working emergency room, they can't work the clinic and the emergency room at the same time.
Right, and that's why we put 3.5 to 4 days.
So maybe the section needs to have two pieces to it. If they are also covering the ER, here's what their minimum client or patient contact is. If they are only in the clinic, here's what their minimum patient contact is.
Somehow factor in the ER part. Or somehow factor in the ER hours, so it represents a full work schedule.
So then this recruitment contract is going to be different than the contract that was approved before. So I need to make sure I'm hearing what the board is saying. You want the recruitment contract different than other contracts, or that's where I'm at.
That's why I brought up these issues when we looked at this contract last time.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't, and I apologize for not reading that more carefully, so that it is a little hard to understand going to and I'm trying to figure out, we said, we don't want to have a special meeting for this, and yet this is something that you need this month.
If I get a physician in here and I give them a general, this is what we're offering,
Okay.
and that physician is very serious, then we will have to call a special board meeting
Absolutely.
to clarify this contract so I can present it.
Absolutely.
Okay. But I still need to make sure I'm hearing what you're telling me, what you want in this contract, because I thought this is what you wanted in a contract, but I need to make sure.
So Linda, what this needs to have is what you need to make sure that, what this needs to have is what you need to make sure that we have physicians that are in office providing hours for our patients.
And that's what I have, 3 to 5 to 4 days a week.
I don't understand, that's what I don't, 3.5 full days of 8 to 10 hours per week. I don't understand.
Because I was asked to clarify what a full day was. And so when I clarified what a full day was, it said 8 to 10 hours, depending on what they want to do. So, for example, one of our physicians will, one day she's in the office for 8 hours, the next day is not an office day, the next day she's in the office for 10 hours, and then the next day she's in the office for 6, and then the next day she's in the office for 8. And that's variable. That's not something she does every week. That the hours can change depending on, you know, what she's doing and what's in her life. So again, that's why I need to try to keep this flexible to recruit and retain a physician.
So this gives us the flexibility on the days of the week and on the work. As well as some parameters on the number of hours that need to work on those days.
Right.
And then there's an average daily patient seen of 15.
Correct. Because that keeps them from saying, I'm only going to do 3 days and I'm only going to see 6 patients every day.
In concept, I don't have a problem with that. I just want to talk to you later.
Okay, and I can take it back and try to figure out how to be more specific with it.
Linda?
TK, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the board when they're considering the verbiage, as far as when you're saying that
Hey, TK, you'll have to come up here if you want.
I just wanted to ask the board that when they're considering the verbiage as far as 15 per week and over what time period to take into account. Say, there have been times in the winter where if we have a pretty good snowstorm, they won't hit that 15 per week. So if the only exceptions are the 2 that are listed, then we're kind of setting them up for not a good situation. So if we could consider some kind of verbiage to take into account those anomalies so that they have a little leeway there.
I think that's why we said over a 3-month average.
Yeah, if you want, I have some ideas about how we might frame this, so I can send that to you.
Please send it to me, I would appreciate that. I really appreciate getting the input back. That would be nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Did you have your hand up, sir?
Well, I was wondering, Wall's question about clinic emergency care. That we're hiring physicians in with no expectation that they will participate in those activities. Is that $260K a year?
I have, what we're looking at right now, is when we're trying to recruit for a family practice physician, we would like to see a family practice physician that can also work the ER at least 1 day a week. And that's going to relieve our clinic physicians.
Is that in this proposal?
Right now, it's when it's part of the interview process.
So we have an interview process, and we have this board approved proposal. I'm just trying to.
Well, there isn't anything in the contract that would stipulate the doctor would have to.
But as we're working with them this year, or whatever, we do discuss it. We haven't brought on anyone who has covered the ER.
The concern here is that this, I want to speak about the walls, but just that we're very thin, and when we're looking at for that coverage.
So another answer for you also, we have to be flexible, we have to be movable. So for example, Dr. Adams, who's coming in, we're interviewing, he wants to only be an ER doctor. So if I get enough of those ER doctors that are family practice designated ER doctors who want to come work in our ER and who can cover, and then our clinic doctors do not have to do that, then I don't need a clinic doctor to come in and do ER. So that mix of who comes into interview, who the physicians like, who we can contract with, and what designation they want to be.
That's the as-needed part of this. It's always the physician give you.
Right.
And there could be language along that line.
What's that?
There could be language that reflects that as needed.
And another clarification while we're on this subject is it 15 patients per day or 15 patients over your
3.5 days
It's 15 patients
On
per
average.
day average.
on average. So you might see 20 on Wednesday and 10 on,
Yes, on
that's
Thursday.
fair language.
Are we good on that?
I think I have the information, and then Jerry will send me what she wants to see, and that would be very helpful.
But this, everyone was.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. The regular board meeting for September, we already changed the date to September 24th. Where and at what time would the board like to have it, the meeting?
So I do want to say that the maximum capacity in the LAC conference room is 33. Just so you're aware that that's the maximum capacity that we can have in there, whether they're seated, whether they're standing, whether they're leaning against the wall. The fire marshal says it's 33.
You're already there here.
We're close to 33 on right
There
now.
were, I talked to some people just last minute because of these were, they would love to.
Well, I think that using this building once it starts to snow is probably not a good idea because access is, as I remember, it's a little dicey. And parking is a little dicey. That would be available over there. But
You could use Memorial Hall,
yeah, yes, yeah.
and there is snow removal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sherry, was there something about, because I got it wrong last time, the heating and the cooling, one of the buildings has one, and
Then as we get into winter, both buildings have heat.
okay. Let's see, remember I messed it up last time.
This building does not have air.
Air, okay,
What you're hearing now is just the vent fan.
okay.
But Memorial Hall has air.
So, yes.
I know I'm just one person, but these late meetings, for those of us that work at the hospital and have to get reports, I have 2 kids, like one, 2 and the other's under 1, and it's hard for me, so I don't know if it's something, like if we're gonna continue to do it, or do it like once every quarter have a late one, so that we can try and babysitters are hard in this town, especially after 5 o'clock, or if there's a way that those of us that do have kids at home, we could give the report a little earlier, school time and normal babysitters are at home.
Well, my feeling is that once we get to October, November, we're not going to be able to start at 6. I really don't want to do Clifford Drive at 10 o'clock. So, who knows? About me to worry about that. But
Well,
anyway.
one question, how many people that are not staff work during the day?
Yeah, but we already
One.
realized there really wasn't that much advertising.
Fine work.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. Most of the people that use this hospital are retired. That's the demographics of our area. And if you're that interested, I mean, this is something I said at the last meeting, if you're that interested, you can be here. I spent 5 years taking a half a day off to go to a meeting because I was interested. So it's not out of the question. A daytime meeting, maybe 4 o'clock might be better. But for the staff that has to be here and give this report, that's an extreme hardship in my mind. And very honestly, I'm missing my Giants game right now, so I'm not real happy either.
All right. I get the feeling that we're going to go away at least for September from the conference room, so this room costs $100. I don't know what,
I think Memorial Hall's going to be pretty close to the same thing.
okay, so,
Wellness center, is that what we call it? The wellness center, the room in the back? That was it.
No, I think it has 35.
Oh, it has a 35.
so we'll look at where we'll be, and you'll be notified.
But you're not a
If I
government
can
agency.
suggest that we, since the days will be getting shorter, that we move it to 5, because most Well,
Can you, let's make that decision.
Can we make a motion so that, because we'll have to talk to the right people to get, talk to the right person.
all right.
So we can make sure we reserve the hall.
Is this meeting fine with everybody? Is this meeting, please?
Yes.
I think you should try keeping it 90 degrees, so.
Yeah, and we'll arrange the tables differently. And what,
I don't know over here.
so either, please give me your input on either 4 o'clock or 5.
I prefer three.
You prefer 3?
For the benefit of the staff, I think it's a real burden.
I think if you did 1 or 2 late meetings a year as a nod to working people, advertise it in his paper, and let people know this is the twice a year that working people are going to be up to agendas, and the rest of the time it's going to be at 3 p.m. I think you'd be fine.
I would
And
think you should
service
support,
for
you
people
know,
who are working, and giving nods to the people who are working fine.
All right,
you'll
can
make
I,
a motion?
can you compromise at 4 for September, and then we better get back to 3?
I prefer three, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, can I have
It's
that?
always introduced to the public.
Pardon me?
They're always welcome to attend anyway, so 3 o'clock should be what you guys were doing. Like I said, we did it quarterly or a couple times a year, regular meeting.
Then please make a motion for 3 o'clock.
I'll make a motion that we have our meetings at 4 o'clock.
Are you making a motion? 4 o'clock here?
Here.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, that the September 24th meeting will be held here at 4 o'clock. All in favor, Jerry? Rich? No. Simon, no. Dr. Walsh? And, okay, it's 4 o'clock, September 24th, here, okay. All right, the strategic master plan, I do understand how staff feels. It's going to be cold pretty soon, and we'll all be public and earlier. The strategic master plan, and then you want to keep that.
So we had a meeting on August 23rd for the strategic planning committee. I presented a summary of what occurred at the strategic planning meeting. We don't have the minutes ready, so I decided to do a summary for you. I presented the plan as the committee saw it. This is another one of those fluid documents. Since it's already been put out to you, I've got some changes to it. That was suggested, and some changes on some of the activities. But I would like to, and then there's one spot in that strategic plan that is a spot for the board itself to have the district board's message that I'll need the information from the board, what you want in that section for the message, and then it'll be ready to go.
So you would like a motion to approve the current edition?
Well, if you'll approve the current edition with the information that you're giving me, what you want as a message from the board itself as a whole, that would be fantastic. I understand that you may want to have a discussion right now of what you would like to see as that district message for you as the board as a whole. But we do need to get a strategic plan passed. And in realizing it is a fluid document and it'll be coming back to you to look and review quarterly.
Right, are there any comments on it now? And we will agendize it for September. Just go back, just to see if there's any other new additions. Are there any additions or ideas for what we have now?
My only comment is that I was not prepared to have tonight. I didn't realize we were going to have to do that tonight.
Okay.
And that's okay. If you want to put something together and then I can kind of combine it of what all the board has given me input for, and then bring it to you. That is okay with me as well. I just was not going to take license with what you as the board as a whole wanted to put in this message.
Hear from our committee members on this process, kind of how the process went, how it worked, who was involved, that kind of thing, if you don't mind.
You want to go first?
Well, I'd say we had a lot of community participation, and that was very, very room full, a lot of discussion, talking about all the options that we had in front of us. And I think it's kind of a living document, and I think Linda has done an excellent job for accepting it and moving forward.
I thought, my opinion, the visual aids that she presented today and what she had on the board the other day were very well done. And we had a comment from one of the members, she said, give me a job. And I think that's the next step on your agenda there.
Right, and you'll see under the summary where we started with assigning some of the folks jobs to do.
Yes. So, do you want us just to, I would prefer to agendize this again for September, because you, and then have anybody who has comments to forward them to Linda, please.
Thank you, Jen.
And because we do need the strategic plan as part when we go for district certification, but we also need the bylaws, so since we're still working hand in hand with that, waiting till September, although it does cause me grief because I just wanted to do that, but I do realize we need to get that combination of what the board as a whole wants to see in this document.
Okay, we're going to take a break after tab G, but on governance.
Dana, can I just request that before we take a break, we let Casey do her report, because she really does need to get home.
Yes, of course. Okay.
And I'd like to request when Casey's
Sure.
So we're working with the doctors so they know exactly what our measures are right now. So this last week we were working with Dr. Walls and Dr. Ware specifically on the time grant measures and the MD measures. It lists out what the prime grant measures are. Prime grant is to improve patient transition of care, help prevent readmission, and make sure our patients have what they need while they're at home. So this way there's no confusion for all of the doctors. What is patient-driven, what is nurse-driven, and what is physician-driven. In the prime grant itself, one of the measures, as you can see, number one, that is completely physician-driven. It's their med-rec on discharge. Number two is driven in the clinic. Number three is care coordination. The one that seems to be getting us the most is HCAPS. That is a CMS survey that is mailed out to all of our inpatient people, and that is not one that we can, it is different than NRC. This one is completely CMS driven. So we are really trying to get our patients to remember, okay, this is coming out, please fill it out. We don't know, like, in a few, you'll see the questions that are asked, whether the food was cold, your call light was answered, your medications were explained to you, that sort of thing. The MD quit measures are specifically out of the ER. So Royce is really working with the other locum docs that are coming in now, so they know what we have to meet, what we need out of them when actually I QA every chart that comes in and out of there. And that helps when CMS goes to reimburse the ER, how it's rated.
Who does that QA piece?
Actually, I do. we should be able to pull all the data directly out of the EHR. But each of our doctors document differently or in different places, so we go back in and if what the data we pulled out of CPSI are evident, then we go back and we read every chart so that we can see, well, if it wasn't something that pulled out, that box wasn't checked, well, Dr. Walls put it into citation, we can count that. We go through and look through all the different, that ER module, the one we've created, that doesn't pull data out of it. It's not, and the input measures are, it's specifically ER. So it's not something that all those little checkboxes can be pulled from because we've created that. It's an E-form. So we go in, we open every chart, we go through them. Okay. So the next one will show you, these are the transfers out of the ER, the measures, and it shows our hospital performance, the state performance, and how we rank, nationally. Gives you percentages on all of them. The next one is our HCAHPS. And like I said, HCAHPS is inpatient only. That's completely different than our NRC figure patient-driven survey. This one is mail. It goes out to only the inpatient. So if people don't fill it out, we take a hit on it, and there's no way we can change it. We are at the mercy of pen and paper.
So Keisha, can you explain some of the things that the care coordination and the nursing department will need to encourage those patients to turn it back in?
So every patient that's discharged, on discharge, Ashley and I go in and remind them, hey, the survey is going to be coming, not only the NRC one that calls and says Seneca Funny, but you're going to get a mail one. We need you to fill it out. We try to explain to them how it helps with our reimbursement. Everybody has room for improvement. It goes through HCAHPS, queued down. It says, how did we help your plan? Did the doctors listen to you? Was it quiet at nighttime? Was your food cold? It is a lot of questions, but ultimately it helps every department. It helps Linda McCurdy. It helps the doctors. It helps us as nurses. After they're discharged the next day, we give a phone call, we follow up. Just, hey, a reminder, this is coming. Do you have any questions on your medications? Is there anything we can help you with? Do you need Meals on Wheels? Do you need physical therapy? Then we make sure that they've made their follow-up appointment. We've given them discharge back.
Okay, just a quick question. Looking at this,
Is it the one-page one?
2-page.
Okay.
So it says number of completed surveys 25 and then survey response rate 25. Does that mean only 25% who received it responded?
Yes,
Or-
of the 25 that mailed theirs back in had a full complete survey.
Okay. Do we know how many were mailed out? Like what percent are we getting back in?
I'll pull it and look.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah, I'll pull it and see what percentage we're actually getting back in over those that were. And I know if they're not filled out completely, it's like a null and void. If you don't do your little docs right, it just goes away. Yeah, the scan time. If they don't do it correctly in the right color ink and all that stuff, it goes away. So we're really reminding them, hey, this is coming. We give them a discharge packet. In their discharge packet, it says, if you don't have a primary care doctor, this is who is accepting primary care. New patients, this is who you can call, this is where you can call. We go over and make the appointments with them if they can't. If they don't have a phone, they don't have these things, we will make the appointments for them. We can arrange transportation, that kind of stuff for them.
Are you submitting the composite data to Prime and that kind of stuff?
Prime Grant, we submit twice a year.
Where's this information from? This is,
HCAHPS?
yeah.
HCAHPS is a third-party vendor that sends it out, and then they submit to CMS for us.
Okay, yes, good. And so, what is the ultimate outcome of this data? You're seeing it, and so you get this information back, and either you're, pleased with the results, or you're seeing something that needs improvement. Where does it go?
On the HCAHPS, we can go in and look, and they can say that Karen Turner was here on this date, and this is what she said. So we have the ability to go in and make that right, and let them know, we're sorry that we got service. So I need
I
to
was thinking
know.
more in terms of process, and then you look at something here and think, wow, we're getting, consistently high scores here or low scores here. We'd like to improve these scores. How do you address it?
We send them out to the department managers. So every week, HCAP doesn't come back weekly, it comes back quarterly. So at the end of when it reports quarterly, we send it to the department managers. And then with the NRC patient-driven survey, every week we go and we pull them out and we send, it's color-coded, and we'll do that in the closed session.
So there's something that you can handle on what you might do to address it.
Absolutely.
I'm just thinking, this is a whole year's worth of data, right? So if we only got 25 back over a whole year, we're not sure it's really representative of.
We're not even there.
Yeah.
But
This wouldn't help us
other
much.
than being at their house and checking their mail and making them fill it out, we're really struggling on making them get those surveys back in. They are, the stamp is on and
for it.
yeah, other than being there, we can't do it. And so the other ones are easy. We can teach Dr. Ross how to do a MedRec. We can teach the clinic staff how to do a MedRec. We can call and get them appointments and all these things, but he does his MedRecs every time. He's good. But the HCAPs we struggle at because we have no control over it. And you can see on the one that has, like this is the questions that are on the HCAP survey. So there is a lot of them, and people get tired and click through. We've heard that too. Like, they only want to tell you the first 5 and then they're over it. Our last one is our empty clip measures. Those are all, these ones on here are all position driven. So with, one has 4 pages, the very last one. Dr. Ware is the only doctor that's still in the ER right now that has been aware of these, that knows what we're doing. So we're really working with the doctors coming in and out and Royce to make sure they're aware of what we have to do. And on the first page it says like what the equipment measure is, the one that has the description was sent out to the doctors. When they have chest pain, they have to have virulence within 30 minutes. Did they have their EKG within 15 minutes? Did we give an aspirin the minute they walked in the door? So actually, I go back through all these charts, pull the data, submit it quarterly as well, and then so we're really working so everybody knows what's expected, what we need, and if this doesn't come through, how it negatively will affect our reimbursement. Yeah, and these are all standards of care. These ones, your EKG within 15 minutes. And not only are we reporting it to these guys, it's a QA internally for respiratory. They monitor it. The aspirin on arrival, that's a standard of care anymore. So they're really trying to make sure that we follow the standard of care and that we're meeting that standard of care. And then in the November meeting, I believe November is when I have all the NRC questions that come back, good, bad, and different for every department on the QA dashboard that we can go over. And then said if we needed it, if you guys want it sooner, we could do it next month in closed session.
So the quality reporting reports November, the 2nd and 3rd quarter, and in May, it's the 4th and 5th quarter. And that's a hospital-wide quality reporting. That's when it's been scheduled.
And then I think I should email them. See, we can, yeah, I don't, actually he emailed it before, I think Rich got it? Somebody got it because they weren't there. So we have done it before, but we can go over it next meeting if that's what we want with all of the NRC, everything that's on it.
That's something the entire board would like to see next month in closed session.
Can you let me, does the board, Kennedy, you want to say it? That's all.
I see it.
Okay.
Is there a certain time frame you want to see?
We want to put you on, make sure you're on the agenda.
No, but is there a certain time frame with the survey that you're looking for, or QA is set up to first and fourth and first. So I can, we'll have 2nd and 3rd for the QA dashboard, but for the patient satisfaction survey, is there a time frame you want to see? Do you want to see?
I don't think we've seen those yet, so probably when we first, in April, when we first implemented them, right?
Yeah, and I know that Ashley and I usually have to say, really did it get
Last night, I like gentlemen, very free. Yeah.
Yes, oh,
I remember
yeah,
seeing you
yeah, that's
like
like,
that, but I was like trying to remember the name.
but yeah, we got, I remember that.
Well, we can go over it.
And we'll, does anybody else have anybody else on staff have a child care situation? Because we'll just put you early on the agenda.
I think it's pretty much me and Ashley that have younger children.
Okay, all right.
We can go early, we really appreciate it.
So, okay, so I just asked Eve one question. Aren't you glad you went to school all those years to be a nurse? So
Typical data. It's sad, but that's what it's gone away from. And when we do monthly meetings with our MD, but it's all small world, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. It's all data is how you're going to be reimbursed. It's not that you were really nice. It's how well you documented and said you did all this.
the other comment I want to make is, DK still here?
Yes.
So, once again, I want to complain about clinic MedRec, okay? The statistics are never going to be good unless CPSI or Evident cleans up that program. It's terrible the way it is. You know it's terrible. You told me yourself you wish they'd do something about it. We can't be held responsible for a bad program. We need to get the MedRec in the clinic. You know, it has discharge meds, home meds, canceled meds, and there's a list about this long and 2 and 3 duplicate meds in each list. It's just the most inaccurate part of our medical record, and we can't do anything about it. The doctors can't, the nurses can't. It's built into the system.
There's both to that, but I can go over with you.
I just assume.
As far as how the printed, there's a difference between the process of doing the MedRec versus how that information appears on the report. And so there's options as far as how we can reflect that information on the report.
Well, we better find a way to include that.
And if I could add something to that as well, that this is one of the reasons we're looking at this T-System, because T-System was created by a physician and clinical nurses. And the difference that you can see in how that one was created versus CPSI is a big difference. These are operations.
And we really tried to make a workaround with the MedRecs, because when you go to the clinic, it's intact, but when it comes back to the hospital, then it's in milligrams, and we have to switch it all over, and it throws everybody off. So we made a workaround with Dr. Berry, trying to help her read it, and we struggle with it. They have to have it in the clinic, if they gotta say CAP, if it comes back to us, for you to be able to discharge.
Do you understand that part of it that she's talking
I
about?
understand that MedRec is a universal problem in every system.
I understand.
And having had a spouse who had cancer and having to deal with that, going from one institution to the other, that is a universal problem. It needs to be fixed because it's serious. But it isn't just CPSI, it's
Well,
everyone.
I know it's not. I think we're just looking for a way to make it easier for the physician.
Right. It needs to be fixed.
Thanks.
And we report crime on everything. So next time we take it.
We'll talk about MedRec too. Okay, Sharon.
My request is that, for this part, for the most part of the meeting that we've covered so far, we've had a couple of things that are not in the package of the public yet, that I think if we want people to come to the meetings and understand what's going on, and maybe provide some public comment, I'm not saying I would want every single thing on your agenda, although the Grant Act says that you should be giving it out. Every piece of backup material you have. You probably have to cut down a lot of trees to do that. But just to give you an example, the discussion on capital budget was very interesting. However, we had nothing to follow along, so it's meaningless to the public. And I probably know more about your operations than most of the public, and I find it confusing. The physician recruitment agreement and promissory note, you know, we don't have any idea whether we would like those or dislike them, or what the heck's involved in them, because we haven't seen them. And last but not least, and probably the most important, is the strategic master plan. I would have liked to have seen the backup material that the board was given to see what it was you were looking at, what you were discussing. And if the public wants to make a comment, if we don't even know what you're talking about, you're not going to get good comment, but you'll get a lot of criticism after the meeting. So my suggestion would be when you're doing the packet for the public, as we go in and try to have more public at the meeting, that you take a really good look at your agenda, and for those types of items that rise to that level, that you put them in the packet material for the public. Or at least run a few copies of them and have a little bit of
Items that are going to be voted on, or items that you think?
I think anything that, well, for instance, some of these you weren't going to vote on.
Yeah,
But that's when you would want to have public comment before you're ready to vote,
Okay.
in case you wanted to revise it. The other thing you could do is put it all on your website. And I'll tell you myself, I'm perfectly happy to go on the website and look at tab E, and if it interests me, I'll download it. You know, and you don't have to print it, I'll have it. And then if I look at tab C and it's boring and I'm not interested, I won't print it. But I'm just saying, I know from sitting through so many meetings that if we want the public to participate, we have to give them the information that you're looking at so they understand what it is you're talking about and what decisions you're trying to make.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go to governance. I've got 4 items on here. The Shd Board evaluation that was sent out to everybody where you could evaluate our board. Only one person was sent in their evaluation, and I think it would be good if we could complete that. So if you would pull it up on your computer, and if you haven't lost it, let us know so we can get it to you. Linda and I watched the webinar that you have on the copy of what the material they sent out. And the woman that did it is very talented, and she was actually talking about the residency program. And we found out, I found that one of the comments she made, it takes 2 years for funds to come in. I would like the board, not tonight, but this, I don't know if you're interested in having this woman come and talk to us and explain some of the pitfalls. It is a way to generate doctors, but there's a lot of things you have to have if you're going to have a residency program. I think it's interesting that I heard the other day that NYU, which is rated one of the top 10 medical schools in the country, is no longer charging tuition for their medical students. They are paying room and board, but they're not paying tuition. That's $55K per student per year that they're getting. They figure that they'll be fully funded when they get $600 million, and they're at $450 million. But they're doing this because doctors come out owing a whole lot of money, and so they go to specialties so they can pay their loans back. And let's hope that other medical schools pick this up too, because in the long run, that's going to be helpful to us. So that was the webinar, and Linda will probably add something in her part when she gets to it. On the code of conduct under the Brown Act, I talked about this once before. I just want to remind you that it is against the Brown Act to say or indicate that you are representing the board unless the board has voted to approve that representation. And I want to add one more thing. The ad hoc committee that you heard about as a summary of the closed session on criteria for the CEO, that is a committee that's not a new committee, that's just a continuing committee of Dr. Walls and Ken Crandall, who working on the ongoing criteria. And as you know, an ad hoc committee goes until it gets its job done. So, or until they say they won't do it. So, all right, Steve, you're HRG, and then we'll take a break.
Okay, so the highlight of the report is that the days of revenue and accounts receivable went down just slightly, went from 52.9 to 52.7. Pursuant to the discussion at the last meeting, I talked to HRT and I said that actually I did a separate analysis to the way that they do it, and some things jumped out through this analysis. One is that our Medicare AR days, they don't calculate the days individually, they calculate the portion of total days. It's kind of an odd way to do it, but that's how they do it. We see progressive increases in Medicare and in our Blue Cross, both of which now are outside our anticipated or accepted repayment period, as has been Medi-Cal for a few months. Pursuant to this, I said that this report that we send out is nice and has a lot of information, but I don't think drills down to why our AR has grown over the last couple of months and now is approximating the upper end of the target that we have set. I requested that we have, this report's fine that they do, but I said that we meet weekly or monthly and provide talking points about what the reasons are that the AR has grown and that some areas are out of target. The schedule conflicting, we weren't able to sit down and hash this through. They sent an underwhelming set of talking points that I'll be getting back to them on. But we've identified what they need to work on. They finally acknowledged that there needs to be some attention there, and proof in the pudding. We'll see what happens during the August report. So,
Do you think they're slowing down on their
something happened because if you look at wherever it is, page people don't have this with market. Their little graph, I mean, we just shot up.
Well, what has changed with the way we're managing them?
What has changed with the way that we're
Managing.
Probably what's changed is that the first month it went up, we didn't jump on it and say, what happened here? And then now, when we did, we got a poor response. It's pretty simple. If you looked at the numbers,
Well, we know they're capable. They're doing a good job, right?
our time to get paid for Medicare is, right now, it's at 40 days. We submit a claim, post-discharge, we get paid in 15 days electronically. If we're delaying the billing process by not making the claim ready for billing within, say, 15 days or so, and then 15 days to get paid to get us to 30, they need to let us know. Are we holding our claims too long? There are some issues with denials, there's issues with secondary billing. These are smaller amounts. There's some systemic thing that we're not getting to. Because Medicare, Medi-Cal should be in the 30s.
You've had a long up and down relationship with them. Recently, we've been doing very well because, as you can see, our numbers in AR days were excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So they're capable of, I guess during the transition, I don't know.
Well, no, it was one of the things that Steve and I talked about, Cheryl and I did this, Marlene and I did this, and now it's time for Steve and I to head back up to Seattle and talk to them about what the heck is going on.
Well, you've had experience twice with this. You should know, I don't know if you have to go to Seattle. You should be able to just do what we've done before.
Oh, well, and that's another option too. Steve's already started doing that with, and I'll just say it's the threat of get back to work, what's going on.
Right.
He's already started that, and so if we don't see what any better changes between now and then that's the next step of, okay, you guys, we've been through this how many times? We don't want to keep going through this every 3 to 6 years.
And 52 days is still a fairly good performance, so we don't want to make it sound like they're doing this wrong. They're making us do work that we don't appreciate having to do. They should be asking themselves these questions, not having us to figure it out and say, oh yeah, you're right, or whatever the response is. So, and the way that the reports are written are very glowing, very positive. And that's fine. There's a lot of good things going on, but something's not right.
And, yeah, we've had that before, so get on. I hope you will keep this, or read through this paper about the webinar. It was very interesting. We may get back to talk about that next month. So,
Sorry, Dana. The industry update, what's that going to do for us? It talks about pricing information. Where might we already make public our pricing information? Sorry, I'm looking at the bottom of the first page. There's some
Say a little bit about that, Sadie?
It's for, I think, I don't have that paperwork, so I don't really know the exact what's in there, but we are still working on getting the patient liability estimator software up and running and implemented. So when patients come in, the software will allow us to look at what their insurance is, what they owe for their deductible, what their co-insurance amount is, and what services are being provided, so that we can create a best guess, not best guess, because it's going to be pretty close estimates, and we'll have them actually, sign paperwork, scan it in the chart, so we have proof that we're giving, the estimate, and we're doing it to be transparent with pricing, and so they have an idea of how much their bill's going to be, and have opportunity to pay that before, at the time of service, and not wait until after they get their dollars retrospectively. So we anticipate having that up by the end of October, because of October 26th. And that's wonderful. Thank you for that.
And I'll look at that more as well, excuse me, Jerry, but we publish our charge master with Oshkosh currently, so
Right. So
I'll have to look at that.
okay, we're taking a 10-minute break. Committee update.
We have not met, and we will need to reschedule the date.
Yeah, and as I said at the last meeting, the staff is going to start to work on the bylaws too. And all that'll mean is that you guys have to get yours, what you want to do finished. We'll have 2 things we can compare. And I'd like to set a deadline of the November board meeting for draft on the bylaws, please. Do you want to talk about the strategic planning committee again?
Well, no, I covered most of that when we presented the plan. We did set out the assessment for the project bids. We had to pull them back and then send them back out again because of having prevailing wage and come in appropriately. And then the appraisal update, I'm sorry, I did not bring the date that appraisal was to go out and happen. So it should be happening in the month of September.
Did we approve, who's gonna do that?
That is within my signing allotment to have them do.
Oh, so you have already done, okay. All right. The ad hoc committee, oh, did you have more on that?
Nope, that was it, please.
Okay.
Helped me
ad hoc committee.
enormously on that first part of the strategic plan, so thank you.
Yeah, we did have a meeting,
Okay.
and I just have a quick report here. A couple of things that we are considering, and of course we'll bring it back to the board for discussion, but an employee satisfaction survey and exit interviews outside of the hospital, quality of care measures, and you heard some of the stuff that Casey was talking about tonight. Medical staff evaluations as part of quality of care measures for an incentive bonus for the CEO. Staffing ratios, number of doctors, and these are all things that are more objective that I think we can set. Ways to evaluate, we're looking at a numerical scale where we rate 1 through 5, and each board member can grade 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and then we add up those scores, and then that would be the percentage that the person gets, that the CEO gets, rather than sitting around just talking and trying to come to some sort of a consensus. It's very subjective. And then the last thing that I have, and I haven't discussed this with Ken, but I did discuss it with Linda, and that is separating the salary from an incentive bonus. And I think the salary should be a salary, and an incentive bonus should be an incentive bonus. The way we have it set up now is the incentive is for the salary. I think the board should discuss whether or not we want to continue doing it that way, because if we have a bonus that's separate and it's an incentive bonus, then we don't have to feel bad about saying, no, you didn't make that, you're not going to get it, period. So I think that's something the board should consider.
Can you put that when you come up with your ideas and criteria? Can you make a recommendation on that?
Yeah.
Discuss it all at the same time.
Yeah, I think a couple more meetings, probably by the next, I think we can have something together by the next.
Hey, we've been on the 20th, and I called Blake on Dr. Wallace on last Monday. I sent an email, suggestion we schedule for this Monday.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you.
And of course, any input from the board, we'll certainly consider that.
I sent, or actually, Michael sent out both Monday. I wrote it and sent it out to you with a report on that closed session. So, any comments that I might say to add would be on that.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you very much. CEO report. Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
I do have one question on that. When you do those incentives, will those scorecards from the individual board members be available to us as a public? Will we get to see how you go?
No,
or is it just to the
that is done in the closed session.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
First comment.
Okay, CEO.
So I gave you a brief update on provider recruitment update on the positions that were locums that we have in that we're working really hard to get as our own. We also have Dr. Ludio, who wants to come in as a PR position, our own, that we sent the CVs out for the positions to review, and we're setting up an interview with him. We also have a Dr. Lordy. I know, they're very similar. He is a physician that will be finishing his residency, his family practice residency in 2019, and he's very interested in coming here to start practice. So we sent his resume out to the physicians to review, and we're working on setting up an interview with him as well. So the other thing is we did have a nurse practitioner that we were looking at. Unfortunately, her nurse practitioner license did not allow her to treat patients that were 9 years or under, and that's not something that we could have here, so we didn't entertain her coming out at this point in time. We did meet a nurse practitioner at the Curry Triathlon who was talking about wanting to come to Chester to work, so we are working on her. She is from Susanville, and I'm sorry, I can't disclose her name right now. She asked not to because it would interfere with her current job. So I'm having some discussions with her to see what I can do to steal her. The occupational therapy update, she's been here, she's doing those skilled nursing assessments. We are moving forward. I'm getting some assistance from Roseanne, Karen, and myself about talking with the centralized application unit and CDPH regarding licensing of occupational therapy as outpatient. So we started that process. I did want the board to know that as far as our ultrasound service, we went from 0 to 2 to 35 patients year to date on ultrasound. So we're really seeing an increase in that service. Under tab H, you also have, we referred to the Collins Company Foundation grant. I wanted you to see it and see what we were looking at. We still did not have a response back whether or not we qualify as a 501c3, but we do know the auxiliary does. So we're talking to the auxiliary about you can apply for the grant in our state. So I wanted you to see that. Then as far as the ACHD legislation updates, I want to make sure that the boards are receiving those updates via email from ACHD. Instead of me interpreting what they're saying, I asked them to please send them to you directly, and I sent you a couple of those. I want to make sure you're receiving them. So if you are not receiving them, please let me know.
So, when you figure not to put your interpretation on it anymore?
I will, and I have one right now that I want to talk to the board about. This isn't an ACHD update, it's a CHA advocacy alert, and what's happening right now is we really need to get Governor Brown to veto this nurse staffing ratio Senate bill that went through. It's Senate Bill 1288, and what that does is, right now, if we can't meet those nurse staffing ratios, we self-report. And if we self-report and we can show that there's no harm to patients and that patient care didn't have any negative outcomes, there's no penalty. Well, what this Senate Bill 1288 does is automatically fine the facilities a $15,000 fine for the first violation and $30,000 for every violation after that. It doesn't give the CDPH any wiggle room on whether or not we're going to fine the facilities or not. So you should be asking me, how many times have we been outside of the staffing ratio? Not very often. And the reason why is because we have some fantastic administrative staff who come in and work it. So when we have a call-in, because we don't have that depth of backup, when we have a call-in, Karen, as CNO, comes in and works it. And like manager will come over and work it. TK will go work it when need be. Casey will come in and work it. So we've not had an issue with it only because we've had the staffing, but there might be a day that we might have to send them the self-report that says, gee, we're down one nurse, we don't have any patients, but we're supposed to have 3 nurses here, even though we have 0 patients, we only have 2. We would get our automatic $15,000 fine if this Senate bill goes through. So I will send you as a board the information on how to send a letter to Governor Brown to urge him not to sign this and to veto the Senate bill. Right now, CHA is just asking that the facilities, the board, write their letters, and I have a template of the letter.
This has gone through the whole legislative process, and it now waits to see.
It now waits its signature. And there's been a lot of different changes to that Senate bill that were acceptable, and then when this went through, it was changed to where it went back to automatic funding.
So is there a way to send a letter to the entire board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure you weren't talking about individual things or email.
What we're doing, what I plan on doing is sending one as a CEO, Karen's gonna be sending one as a CNO, then we can send one from the entire board as well. And we have the template, well, it'll be coming from Michael, the template of what we need, put it on our letterhead, we'll have it ready for you to sign.
So
That was the answer to your question.
who's sponsored? Is this a nursing union?
Actually, Labea, she's a Democrat from Chino, or sponsored it, and it is not backed by CHA, it's not backed by, CHA, sorry, and it's not backed by the Nursing Association too. So I'm not really sure why, but it's gone through multiple changes. So there's that legislation update. The Courage Triathlon, I'm going to have our staff talk about that. It was fantastic. Go.
Hopefully, you all received the email that we sent out today. If you weren't at Courage Triathlon, I urge you to get out there next year. It was amazing. And our Seneca Superheroes came in third place, which was very, very awesome. We also had our medics, Linda and Karen and Ann and Casey all came out to volunteer for injuries, and Lindsay was there to take pictures and cheer everyone on. It's an amazing event. Very proud that we all got to be a part of it. Just wanted to share that.
I was too excited our team came in third place. There was some professional kayakers and professional runners and bicyclists.
Third out of 36 teams is what they announced on the grass that day.
And this, I wasn't aware that I got your email, but this is a group that tries to help conquer human trafficking.
Yes. Yep, and there are 3 people who come from the prison in Susanville who had a vision and put it together. This is their 4th year. We went from 4,000 in the first year, and this year they made 30,000. So,
Sorry, I participated the first year. That's a huge jump.
oh, it's huge, yes. And we had over 350 as or volunteers. We moved kayaks and bikes. So we had 350 kayaks and bikes to move.
So I sat back on the grass. I wasn't out at the medic station. I watched them from the live video. I watched them from the finish line or from the starting line, and I waited for them to come back in. But they have radio, they do requests for songs. So even though somebody's not participating as a runner, a biker, or a kayaker, they have stations set up for different raffle prizes. The radio station was there. It was great for all the families waiting. They all brought their blankets and set up shop right there on the grass on the English night. It was awesome. So we'll definitely be participating next year. In fact, our team, David, so he ran for us. He was so jazzed for next year. It's like, I want to get jerseys and I want to get this and I can't wait. So I've already counted him in as one of our participants.
David said they had to see kayak, they would have won this year.
They would have. Well,
Especially if I can see kayak.
so our kayak came in and everybody was asking him why he was sitting a little lower in the water. And my belief is that we took third because his boat was filling with water. And so I think he knew he needed to go as fast as he could or he was going to be eaten. So he like zoomed across and like it was awesome.
I don't get to see any of it, so
I know, we were at the
it's great
station.
to see all the pictures and videos.
Wow. It was fun. So I also spoke at the CEO meeting August 13th, and that was a very enjoyable time. I was able to talk about services and about what was going on with the mammogram. So it was, I really enjoyed speaking with them. CDPH survey, I called Steve Gardner, he's the district supervisor. We still have the verbal that they approved our survey, but I don't have it back in writing yet. As far as the rest of the CDPH survey updates, I've sent them to you if you would like to see them again. It was the acceptance of the critical access state and CNS survey that they sent to us. I can send that back out to you if you want to see them. And that brings me down to the request for documents. If there's documents I haven't presented to you or the staff you've asked and I haven't gotten it to you from the staff, please let me know so that I can make sure I get them out to you. And that's all I have for right now.
Can you talk to me about a balanced scorecard?
Yes, we're going to present that to you. That's going to be part of the facility-wide quality, and it'll be a balanced scorecard where you can see the red light, yellow light, green light.
Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. Departmental issues, the quality care coordination. I guess
That's what Casey did.
Okay. And the quality dashboards, we already talked about that. Okay. Acute. Karen?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. We're going to meet again tomorrow. This will be our second meeting at Feather River College. We're going to meet the representatives of youth college at Feather River and Workforce Alliance to talk about the bridging program. LVN to RN. We're totally excited about that. We're hoping that they get this up and running by next spring. Not sure if that's going to happen that quick, but.
You know how those programs are funded?
You know, I'm not sure.
Federal
It is
funding.
but I want to say, but I was going to say, being initiated through college.
So one of the things that Karen's taking back with them too, because I'm a master's prepared nurse, I can also help them with that program, getting it to center. You have to have a master's in nursing for that LVN to RN upgrade.
I was just wondering if Ashford was involved in this now or promoting this.
I'm not sure.
Who? Ashford, Council Statewide Health Plan.
I don't think, there's some strictly a program.
They're really looking at workforce development.
You started off, yeah.
I think it's initiated. We'll know more as we go. This is our second meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, the meeting tomorrow is not just an update of where they're at, but they also, they asked us to reach out to our people, our LDNs, folks that might be interested, so they can come and find out what's required of them, because they have, it's a year and a half away before they started. What do they need to do with microbiology? What do they still have to take in order to qualify? I sent out to all our LVNs and probably 7 of them, 7 or 8 of them. The other part of this program is that it's funded, therefore it's funded for Lucas County, therefore any of the hospitals in Lucas County first shot, they be able to get into this hospital. So it isn't open enrollment. This is for you program. You can have your people do that.
Well, good, you upstream like that, and do that, pre-counseling, education counseling, involving counseling.
Right.
And I mean,
To get that all set up, and they even talk about possibly folks, the microbiology is only once a year. If there's enough interest, let's throw another microbiology class back, because you college will come up and teach it. They're very proactive.
Yeah, and hopefully with that starting up, we may lose some LVNs, but with Susan, there was last county putting out their LVNs, like they're going to be putting that catch up. LVNs will go to RNs and we'll do LVNs. So just keeping my fingers crossed. We're going to have staff.
On that note, are we going to talk about the screening program, or are we going to wait for next week?
Well, we did talk a little bit, we did touch on CNA programs. They sent off the documents and we're waiting period for 30 to 90 days. We're hoping in 30 days instead of 90, but we sent it off last week. So everything's ready and we're just waiting for it to go.
Thanks, Karen. Clinic, telemedicine, and hope.
Yeah, so I don't have much to update. Thanks to Jacob and the maintenance team, we are almost up and running in
specialty walk-in with the new Surface Pro update, so that's really exciting. We just have a couple minor pieces left. And then the telehealth, we're continuing to grow that program. I ran preliminary numbers for this month, and we are almost double the patient visits this month as we were last month in telehealth. So it's growing nicely, and we're hoping we're growing more. How many is that again? For August so far, we have 54, and still have patients coming tomorrow.
Thank you. TK?
An update on the optimization.
Come up around over here. Thank you.
Just an update on the status of the optimization. We're about 95% complete. We have another round of WebExes that we're going to be participating in on this coming Wednesday. And then after that, along the way, also we're working with the management departments individually as far as when they go through this process, if they identify something that they would like to incorporate into the workflow that maybe they weren't using before, or also too, we use that as an opportunity to speak with the evident representatives for enhancement requests and things of that nature, and to get status updates on the existing enhancement requests following the process. That'll be complete Wednesday.
Thank you. Jacob? Pardon me? Oh, sorry, Pat.
Oh, that's okay. I wanted to back up to telehealth. I just wanted to mention that we're just going to credential a physician for wound care for our SNF, for our skilled nursing also. So that's going to be another new telehealth service that we're working on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The particular patient I have in mind
Yes.
won't be able to go over to that little room.
We're going to figure that out.
Jacob's going to talk about that.
I can talk about that. We've got a laptop and a webcam already set up to use in the skilled nursing facility in the room.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they won't be coming over here.
But it is a new service to telehealth, so.
Do you have anything else?
Okay, so a couple more things to touch on with that. The second telehealth cart that we have, because Ann has reached out to Renown, so we can start getting some other ones. It does have the capability to run wireless, so that means we won't be attached to a cord, so we can run it up and down the hallways anywhere that we're going to need it. I should have that up and running the next week. Per the board's request, I reached out to Doug Tonis, who is our customer service manager, our customer success manager. I reached out to Dave Garrettson, who is the account executive for us, and also to Michaela, who is the head of technical applications. They all three gave me the same answer. Absolutely not. We will not program, support, or otherwise do anything with your servers unless we purchase them ourselves. That being said, I went ahead and moved forward with that. They landed on the floor yesterday, and we have a tentative date right now, September 23rd, to have a downtime day and get everything changed out and back up and running.
Thank you. All right, Lindsay? PR marketing?
So we already talked about Courage Triathlon, so I'm going to cross that off the list here. Our next sponsored event is actually this weekend. It's the Northern California Cancer Advocates are hosting a golf tournament at Diamond Mountain in Susanville. So we actually sponsored 2 holes on this event. We're also, segueing from that, we're also going to work with this group to put some information together for our patients in order for them to gain the resources from this group. Something like if with a cancer diagnosis approved, they can grant up to $1,000 for that patient for their care or what they need. So we're going to try to get the information from them to get the handouts to our patients, just to offer some more for them during this event. I'll be off for the next couple weeks after tomorrow. Just so you guys all know, but I do have my phone and internet and my service program, so if there is an emergency, email me and I'll take care of it or pass it off to the right
lot of us know the people who put together the MCCA group, and they also take people to their appointments. They figure out ways to help them with transportation to Reno, and I mean, they have made a huge difference in
NCAA group.
Northern California Cancer Advocates. That's Michelle Surrey, yes.
The Rancheria over to North Carolina, appointments, so they have like bus and they were,
I actually am not sure.
they were in Susanville, at least, when I was working county, they were more than willing to help out, any people that were appointments. I know they swing through there, so.
Yeah.
Well, of course, our very best wishes for a wonderful time and a happy life. Jim, Human Resources.
Sure. In terms of staff, we added 4 new folks this month. A full-time staff RN, a part-time cook and IA, a full-time LVN is a new grad out of Laston, and she is qualified for the Financial Workforce Development Funding. So she's going to have her salary paid for the next 3 months in training. And we have a per diem CNA. We have an additional addition, which is another per diem staff RN that we hope to get as close to over the next few 4 or 5 months. But for now, he's going to get per diem. We hope he's going to start in September. In deletions, we've had 3 all voluntary resignations, CNA, a maintenance person, and housekeeping person. The other thing on the back on the bottom, you see there's a new grad, also from Lansing College, an LVN that was our CMA for us, and got her LVN, and she also qualifies for the Land Workforce Development, so she's also getting, we're also getting help with her training for the next 3 months, which Steve is happy about. But that's part of our growing process. She was a full-time MA for us. We put her on per diem, we let her work for us when she could while she was going to school, and now she's back and working for us. That's the kind of thing we like the most. Open positions, you can see we've pretty much still the same. We did, however, at the skilled nursing facility, RN person in the open positions, and we have filled it in-house with someone who's going to not just do the weekend shift, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but also take care of acute and ER, so in terms of being supervisor of all 3, which would reduce some of the costs of the SNP program. Let's see, and as far as the deletions are concerned, I want everyone, the board to understand, over the last 8 months, 9 almost, we've had 26 total folks separate from us. 4 of those, 5 of those, are simply people that were on per diem and have worked for us for 6 months. So we terminated them after that point. But we really had 21 folks that have left us. 5 of those 21 were actually discharged. 4 of those discharges were probationary discharges. So they didn't make it through the probationary period. 15 voluntary, of which 2 were retiring, and and 1 more voluntary person. So out of those 21, I have received 5 extras. They've each got 1. We've all been sent them, even the per diems that have been out, so 26. I've received 5. Only 1 did it right there, right in the room. The rest of all, I had to mail it to them, I had to give it to them, let them get home, and everything. So I have 5 extra interviews this whole year. And I can give you some of that next week. Let's see. I did on a couple, yeah, because they were in the focus of areas. What the other thing we need to cover? Oh, I'm not even on that part. I haven't finished it. I just want the board to understand that there's 3 ways to leave. 1 is for termination of cause, 1 is for probationary termination, and the other is voluntarily resigned. for basically cause, obviously, and in every discipline, almost every disciplinary action, the union is involved, either by just a phone call, or letting the shop steward know, or a shop steward comes into the disciplinary action, if so, if the employee wants that, requests it. So there's the whole process, you guys have looked at that process in the past. Let's see. Okay, now we get to smoking cessation. So we've had some meetings and some discussions on smoking cessation. Lindsay and I have talked with Layla just this week and have come up with some information of a survey that she put together from our people. And we are got a policy that's almost done, and we'll have it probably, hopefully, presented by the next board meeting. And we would hope that we will start the program October 1. That's what we've been sent out to all of our folks. Again, we'll be a soft start. I think and I haven't really discussed this with Linda, but a lot of the policies of the other hospitals don't necessarily spell out disciplinary actions. And I think I'd like to leave our disciplinary actions not spelled out, but that's something we'll talk about. In other words, just say it could be subject to disciplinary, instead you're going to get something here, or you're going to get a burden on there, because it's something that people, it's going to be hard to get people on board with what kind of things. Pleasant as possible, and try not to make the negative experience the positive experience, reinforcing on. And again, our policy is you can't smoke on campus. You smoke all you want, just smoke on campus. On the other part of the
will there be a smoking area?
No. No smoking on the campus, period. We have worked with the Department of Health, Sonia, and I can't pronounce her last name. And they're going to furnish us a lot of information. We'll have that ready for the employees. And we'll have signs up.
Include vape?
Everything includes vape, yes. All our language includes vape.
And will this also affect the residents of skilled nursing?
Our skilled nursing is a non-smoking unit right now, so we've already.
So there are no smokers in it?
For the residents, correct.
What about the union have to get involved in a policy like this?
To who?
The union?
Yes, we've already gotten the okay with union, but we will be presenting it to them when we get to it. They're in theory, or actually more than theory, agreeable. We're probably the only hospital in California that doesn't have it. So. We also have the community smoking cessation program, which Pat is heading up. I don't know if you want to speak on that, Pat?
Yep, so September 19th is a good date for our physicians. We're collaborating with Lewis County, and unfortunately this building is rented already on that night, now that everyone's available. So I'm going to look into the Memorial Hall. I can't imagine that we'll have a huge turnout, but we will have resources for the community, and our physicians will be there to talk. And so we are going to work on putting that together for September 19th, and that will be from 5:30 to 7.
And that's the other thing, we're going to also have to educate the community. They're not allowed to smoke on our campus as well. Visitors. So it's something, everyone hand in hand. We need information.
Meetings, something you can partner with county public health to?
Oh, we are.
You are.
Yeah. That's Layla.
That's later in
Jim. They'll be here.
Thank you, Jim. On the consent agenda, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the special board meeting held on August 16, 2015. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, Ken?
Aye.
Dr. Walsh?
Aye.
I'm aye. Rich?
Aye.
And Jerry? Items to be added to next month's agenda, or this could be a good meeting. So, we want to talk about the grants, Medicare, budget, deficit, that whole the capital budget. The letter for, did you, one thing we didn't bring up on that strategic plan, there's a space where a letter is supposed to be written by, help me out here, Linda.
It's just the message, the district board message.
Yes, so we need to designate somebody to write that in that strategic, so that should be on that. Storage of videos.
Dana, when we talk about that, can we also talk about what Sherry suggested about putting the important documents out in public packets and making them available on the website? Kind of goes together, I think.
Are you talking about the tapes?
No, well, I'm talking about the board packets.
Okay.
She was suggesting making those
Well,
available.
yeah.
Well, and you don't need to discuss that, that's just something we're going to
That's,
do.
we just, yes, that doesn't have to be on the agenda, that's going to be done.
That includes putting on the website as well, right?
Pardon me?
Should.
The website as well as the letter. You're right.
We uploaded right after the agenda in more.
Okay.
More.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was talking.
No, that's all right. The webinar, I'd like us to discuss if anybody read it, looked at it. This is not for the agenda, but several members of the board would prefer the old new shape so they can see each other's faces.
Well, if you're gonna have it in here, I'm not sure, we'll try to figure out how to get these tables to you. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
The medical the med rec, can we talk about that? Yes.
Was that something you wanted to talk about?
You want us to talk about it? No. Okay. Take that out there.
That's an in-house thing.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Michael?
Do you have the contract language?
Yeah, no contract. Yes.
I got everything.
Okay, yes.
And the options for Jacob?
Yeah, I got that. The storage of videos. All right, so unless anybody has an objection, this meeting is closed and we're adjourned to closed session.